Hi everyone, Jenny Dean here. I'm really happy that you're taking the time to join me today. It's always a privilege to connect with anyone that's listening or watching these interviews, so thank you for being here. And if you're new to these interviews, welcome to Floppycats. And I know that if you've chosen to watch or even listen to our interviews, then you are someone that values creating a more harmonious life with your cat, and that is fantastic. And what I truly appreciate is that we get to spend this time together learning from Dr. Chris Bessent. So without further ado, here's Dr. Bessent. Hi, Floppycatters. Today I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming Dr. Chris Bessent. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay. A true pioneer in the holistic veterinary medicine. Dr. Bessent is a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Master of Oriental Medicine, and holds multiple certifications in veterinary chiropractic, acupuncture, and herbology. For decades, Dr. Bessent has dedicated her career to improving the lives of animals through her exclusive holistic practice in Southeastern Wisconsin. Beyond her clinical work, Dr. Bessent is a visionary entrepreneur. She founded Herbsmith, a company that brings the power of Chinese herbal remedies to a broader audience. Driven by passion for whole animal health, she also launched the Simple Food Project, focusing on minimally processed food, wholesome pet nutrition, and then also has released Medicus Veterinary Diets, which provide therapeutic animal diets. Dr. Bessent's dedication to animal wellness, combined with her extensive expertise and innovative spirit, makes her a leading voice in holistic veterinary medicine. I'm honored to have her with us today. Thank you, Dr. Chris, for being here.
Thank you, Jenny, for having me. I love your podcast and I love what you're doing and hope to extend more information to proactive pet parents.
Yes. So I am relieved to have gotten through that intro, as I explained to you, because I don't like to read out loud. And but I actually met you at Global Pet Expo almost a month ago. Is that right?
Yeah.
No. Oh my goodness. And I knew of you because I didn't know that you were Herbsmith. But I did know of you from Medicus because I saw you interviewed with the two crazy cat ladies about Medicus, and I thought it was the coolest thing, and just put it in the back of my mind. I'd like to interview her someday for Floppycats about that. But then when I ran into you at Global Pet Expo, I was like, oh no, I want to interview her about her and then why she started the companies that she did. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because I want cat owners to be educated about what they're buying, why they're buying it, and who they're buying it from, and who that person is and why they started what they're doing. So, Herbsmith was your first company, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Well, other than your veterinary practice that you did
Correct.
for 35 years?
Gosh, yeah, it's like 36, 37 now. So I graduated in 1988. Seems like forever ago. But yeah, I started my veterinary practice in Southeastern Wisconsin. And when I first graduated, I was primarily practicing traditional veterinary medicine. So, but you know how the universe kind of brings things to you. And I kept getting patients that I couldn't fix. And that was, to me, was the ultimate goal, is that every pet that came to me, that I could help them improve their quality of life. And so I kept getting these patients that would come to me with issues that couldn't be fixed with traditional veterinary medicine. And that's how I started to explore more alternative medicine with the idea of being able to positively affect every pet that came to my vet practice. So alternative medicine, chiropractic, acupuncture, herbs, and food therapy allowed me so many more tools in my box that would allow me to help each and every pet that came my way. And so I practice surgery, I can prescribe pharmaceuticals, I can do all traditional veterinary medicine, but I've chosen to do more alternative medicine because it just resonated with who I am as a person. which is when you're approaching disease, start with the most conservative methods first. And then thank God that we have surgery when we need it. Thank God that we have antibiotics and pharmaceuticals when we need them. But how could we implement more gentle options, food and herbs, into maintaining health and wellness so that when you needed to have surgery, your animal could heal better. They could recover quicker. If
Yeah.
they had to have pharmaceuticals, thank God we have them, but their body is more healthy and balanced and has a good foundation of health so that the negative side effects that might come with that pharmaceutical is not as severe and they can recover quickly from it. And I would say that a lot of that comes from my veterinary practice, and that what I saw as a young veterinarian is that people who fed their animals well, those animals healed well. And people who did proactive things like acupuncture and herbs, those animals got better faster and stayed better for longer. Made me look great.
Yeah.
But it was really the patient that came to me. So the pet owner that was doing a great job supporting them, providing them with everything that they needed, so that when I implemented some intervention to fix that issue, it healed better. They responded better. They had less negative side effects. And so it was kind of a win-win for everybody, win-win for me, for other veterinarians, and most importantly for the pet owner, and absolutely the most importantly for the pet.
Yes. That makes a lot of sense. My parents had a German Shepherd who had degenerative disc disease. It wasn't whatever. How do you say that? Myelopathy?
Yep.
Yes.
Degenerative
Thanks.
myelopathy.
Um, anyway, we were doing the whole towel thing and all of that stuff. He went in for an MRI, and that's how they diagnosed that. And I stopped the ER, internist guy, and I said, "Have you had success with anything like this? Is the coolest dog we've ever had." And he said, "There's an acupuncturist. She's hard to get into, but I've seen success. That's the only time I've seen a dog walk again." So, long story short, started going to her. He walked that day. But about 2 months into working with her, the dog's name was Tucker. He got torsion, just playing with the ball.
Yeah.
And so I literally was like, "This is it. We're done. He's done. Like, we're not going to go any further." We caught it, took him to the ER. He walked right out of there after surgery. And it, like, just hearing you talk about that reminded me of that. And I'm like, that's why, because he had the prep.
Yeah. Yes. Because you had him in a good physiologic position to be able to withstand that stress that was needed. That was, thank God that we have it. But and what I saw is dogs that didn't get fed well, or cats that didn't get fed well, they didn't have the foundation to respond. So they got better, no question. Everybody got better, but it took a lot longer. So the progress wasn't quite so good. And I would agree with you that intervertebral disc disease was like a mainstay in vet practice, meaning that traditional medicine didn't have a lot to offer, and acupuncture and herbs did such a great job that it's countless dogs and cats that have come to me and gone on to live happy, vibrant lives just from alternative medicine. So I hate the word alternative medicine because it's not like extra or different. It really is just a different path, a different approach.
Yes. Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it I have a master's in Spanish, so my interest in language is obviously present. And I've never thought of it as alternative being thought of that way, but yes, that is, huh. Okay. So you Well, first of all, I'm thinking 1988. At what time, at what point are you introduced to Chinese medicine? I mean, I know it's been around for a long time, but
Yeah,
I don't feel like it has been in the United States in veterinary practice.
right. Absolutely. So I graduated in 88 and practiced 3 years just traditional medicine, which was great. And then I kept getting these roadblocks of, a horse that had really painful back and I couldn't fix them. And an acupuncturist came in one treatment, completely fixed him, changed the trajectory of that life. And I went, wow, I need to know that. And then I had Julie Kaufman. She's a chiropractor, but she adjusts animals, and she's in my area of my veterinary practice. And she kept coming in and fixing my patients. And I love her. And I went, wow, I need to know that. So that kind of pushed me down that journey. And I remember one really profound day that it was just a beautiful sunny day in Wisconsin. I was driving around from farm to farm in my vet truck, and a veterinarian was on public radio, and she was talking about chiropractic and acupuncture and herbs. And I remember exactly where I was, stopped the truck, pulled over, and just listened to this woman talk in awe. And it was like I kept get presented with all these patients I couldn't fix with traditional medicine. And then I listened to this and I thought, oh my gosh, that's what I need to know. And so that's when I started searching out what's the best training available in the world. And it didn't matter to me where it was, wherever it was, I was going to go there. And so I took the training in veterinary chiropractic first. And that was in Northern Illinois, so it was drivable. I was one of the first 60, I was the 62nd veterinarian to go through that course of veterinary chiropractic. And it just made so much sense to me. It worked so well. So I took the best training available in the world, and then I went and practiced. And in my veterinary practice, I didn't charge anybody for the first 6 months. Because at that point, it was kind of like woo-woo, like new
Yeah.
agey, sort of unusual. And I didn't want to risk my veterinary degree on a fad. So I said, I went and I took the best training available in the world, and I can promise you I will not hurt your animal. But I'm not going to charge you because I don't know 100%. And if it's not as effective as I think it is, then you shouldn't have to pay for it. So as the universe does, over like the next 6 months, I kept getting people right about the time I think, well, I don't know if it's as effective in my hands as it is in others. Somebody would call me and say, my dog has never been better. My cat stopped attacking his hind paws and stopped licking his spine because now he's so much better than ever. And so I kept getting that validation that I was on the right track over that 6 months time period. And then I said, no, this is really as wonderful as I think it is. It's very easy to do, non-harmful, has no negative effect, can only improve their lives. So then I started charging for it. But I also, at that point, also started getting a lot of cases that acupuncture would help well and herbs would help. So I thought, oh boy, now I'm going to have to go learn that too. so I went and took the best training available in the world in acupuncture with the International Veterinary Acupuncture Society and started practicing acupuncture, and I loved it and it worked amazingly well. But as you know, in Chinese medicine, acupuncture is one, but then you also should be prescribing herbs. So you do the physical treatment of needling them and diagnosing them, but then you send them home with herbs. And at the time, I was much more interested in physiology of the body, I had no interest in botany at all. Like, don't ever make me go on a herb walk because I hate that stuff. Well, of course, look at me today. I'm the Herbsmith. And how did that happen? It happened because in Chinese medicine, the acupuncture is a quick change in the right direction, and then the herbs are a gentle, everyday persuasion in the right direction. So when they came back to me, they were better if they were taking herbs than they were if they weren't taking herbs. So then, as I do most things, I dove into that head first and took the 3-year postgraduate training in veterinary herbology and have studied it ever since. And there's so much to it that I'm 64 right now. I've been studying it my whole life, and I still should be studying it because I think there's just so much. And you know how it is when you push information in one side of your brain and then it pops out and then you push more in, and that's herbs. So I actually ended up loving herbs and loved the gentle, positive effect that you could get every day. And at that point, so I started taking the advanced training in 1991 through 1995, 96. And then I saw that at that point, there were only about 1,200 holistic vets in the country. So I was seeing patients all day, every day, and they were doing fabulous. And I thought, we need to get this out to more people. And so I had all these fabulous herbs that I knew were very safe, that the Chinese medicine fit the Western medicine really well, and that if I could get it in the right hands, we could get it to more patients. And so we have these wonderful pet stores in our area, and I thought, they're the people. If I could get the Chinese herbal formula for arthritis, people know if their cat or their dog has arthritis, so it's obvious what herb that they would use. And that is how Herbsmith was born, of being able to take what my holistic veterinary colleagues thought was the secret sauce, and I wanted to share it with the world. I wanted it to get to holistically minded pet stores and get it out to more veterinarians that might not want to dive as deep into herbs as I did, but they understand that there's gentle ways and that they want to have that in their vet practice, but they don't want to dedicate years of their lives to learning it. So really, Herbsmith came about in let's get more herbs to more good pets in the world and have a positive influence on animals I will never meet, but know that bladder care, for example, is going to help so many kitties with bladder issues that I will never meet them, but I had a positive influence on their lives. And that's how kind of the Herbsmith network developed.
Okay. What year was that you started Herbsmith?
2000.
2000.
Yep. And
So
then
1988 to 2000.
yes.
Okay.
And then in 2008, I partnered with another company. From 2000 to 2008, I was really just selling locally, friends, families, local stores, local vets. And then I partnered with another company that then we took it national and globally.
Okay. And so did you seek out that partner because you wanted to take it nationally and globally? Or did they approach you?
They approached me, and it actually was my family, so my parents, and my dad was big into microfiche, and microfiche was going
I haven't
away.
heard that word for so long. That's great.
And so he had this big building, and he wanted to start another company, and I'm like, this would be perfect. I would love to do it. I had the intellectual knowledge, but not the finances to do it. And they had the finances, but not the intellectual knowledge. So it actually started as a partnership with my dad. And so my dad and I worked on it together for the next 10 years. And then he retired.
That is so great. I was gonna ask, like, why did you choose that partner? Did you have concerns? Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. It was a great way. And for me, it was so wonderful to really get to know my dad.
Yes, from like a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I was
in the
thinking
times that I would I would lose a customer or something. I'd have tears in my eyes, and my dad would be like, "Come on, you can do it." And when your dad tells you that, you just do it. You don't go, "No, I can't."
Yes.
So
Yes.
he was always there to just keep on pushing me and keep on moving me forward.
Yes. And it's funny that my sister has two little guys. One's 3 and one just turned 1, and he just started walking. And that reminds me, like, you heard that from your dad since you started walking. Come
Yeah,
on, let's
you can
go.
do it.
Yeah, that's so
And
great.
and so now in the kind of the succession of the business, my daughter Sarah is actively involved in the businesses and kind of really has brought such amazing knowledge of technical support and has really come in and taken the business even more thorough and dynamic. And so it's really wonderful. It came from my dad to me to now to my daughter.
Yes, yes, multi-generational, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so why do I want to buy herbs from Herbsmith over, if I can get I'm thinking your kidney care, but like milk thistle. There's one that you make, but I can get it other places. Why do I want to come to you?
Yeah, I would say that just like I didn't charge anybody for the first 6 months of doing veterinary chiropractic because I needed to know that it would work. In Herbsmith, it was also about what formulas really work well, because not all formulas work the same. So, what work really well, and what is a therapeutic level? And that is like, if I were to put Herbsmith into a sentence, it's therapeutic levels of active ingredients,
What
meaning
does that
that
mean? I'm assuming I know what that means, but what does that mean?
it means when you use it, it's going to work.
Okay.
And unfortunately, in the United States, the law is you can put hip and joint supplement on your bag if you have just a dash of glucosamine in it. And what I saw as a veterinarian is, again, who suffered? The dog. So somebody would come to me with their pet, and they had arthritis. And of course, my first thing is, are you feeding a joint fluid supplement like glucosamine, chondroitin, hyaluronic acid? And they'd say, yes, I've been doing it for years. And I go, well, where do you get it from? Home Depot. Or we could take that out, but
That's fine.
a big box store.
Yes.
And so we'd look it up on the computer, and then we'd do the math and find that even though they were buying it religiously and they were giving it religiously, the amount that was in it was so low, it was never going to do anything. And so here, this wonderful pet parent who felt like they were doing the best for their dog got duped into believing that that would work. And who really suffered is that dog. And I was not going to let that happen on my watch with my company. That
Yes.
if I say it's going to work, it's going to work. And if it's needs, as I said before, if they need pharmaceuticals, yes, absolutely, let's use pharmaceuticals. But if we can go with a gentler, less side effect way, let's choose that way first. But it was also so important that if it wasn't at therapeutic levels, it wasn't going to work. It was going to cheat the dog, cheat the pet parent. And I was absolutely never going to put my veterinary reputation, my years of knowledge into something like that. So every single thing that you're going to buy from Herbsmith is therapeutic levels. It's also of the highest quality ingredients. So there's lots of garbage herbs out there that are diluted, that are contaminated with heavy metals or pesticides or herbicides. Every single herb that we bring into Herbsmith, into our manufacturing facilities, have to come with a certificate of analysis. And that certificate of analysis tells me, and I see it before we even order it. if that certificate of analysis shows that it's free of heavy metals, free of pesticides or herbicides, that it's analytically evaluated to be sure that's the herb it's supposed to be, all of the details are correct, then it can come into our facility. And then we blend it to make the herbs that then you would purchase for your kitty. So when you buy Herbsmith herbs, they're of the highest quality. And that's my burden, is to make sure that we never bring less quality herbs in. If I wouldn't give it to my dogs, I would never allow it to be sold to somebody else or to my kitties.
Yeah. Good. Good.
So safety is a big one. Therapeutic levels are a huge one. Years of clinical practice that I've used these herbs. So like kidney care is a fabulous herbal combination called Romania 6 that's been used all over the world from holistic practitioners that really increase blood supply and decrease inflammation in the kidneys. And I've used it for 30 some years in my veterinary practice, as well as so many others around the globe, that I knew it could be put into the hands of a proactive pet parent and still have the same effect.
Yes. Yes. So if I'm like, where do I want to go with this? When you're looking at bringing on a new formula or product with Herbsmith, what's your approach there? And or is the line pretty standardized now, or do you bring on new formulas every year?
The way we decide about a new product is there a need? So, and can it be accomplished with limited medical knowledge? So a cat parent shouldn't have to know all the ins and outs and details of oxidative stress of renal cells. They should just know that I'm going to give this bottle. That's my job. I'm giving this bottle of herbs, and if I can get it into him, he's going to continue to live a long, vibrant life. So is there a need? Is there safe herbs that could be easily applied? And am I not cutting a veterinarian out of a situation? So, for example, there is really fabulous herbs for seizures that are super gentle, work really well, increase the firing threshold of the neurons, meaning decrease the amount of seizures happening. But you need to have a veterinarian involved with that. So we make that product, but it's by prescription only. Not because the product itself is unsafe, because the herbs are very safe, but more because there are times that it's super important that a vet is involved in the management of everything. So that's really how I go about deciding if we want to add another product or not. And so kidney care was one of the recent ones that we added. And the reason I did is because, as you well know, the incidence of kidney disease has just gone through the roof for cats, certainly, and as well as for dogs, but really for cats. And there was do you want to hear another story?
Yeah.
Okay, here's another story. I went to the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Convention. I think I told you this one at Super Zoo. And I went there with Medicus, which is whole food nutrition that is balanced with nutrients for animals with disease. And I was so excited to go there. And we were the first people doing it, especially in freeze-dried whole food nutrition. And I thought people are going to just this. They didn't. And I was like shocked. I was like, you're my people. You're my tribe. Why aren't you supporting me in this? And so we went about our business. And, a couple of weeks later, as I'm still thinking about how it wasn't as phenomenal as I thought it was going to be, was because those veterinarians were already using Romania 6. They were already using the herbs, the Chinese herbs for kidney disease. And So they were already fixing their patients. So they weren't prescribing, a therapeutic diet because they
Yeah.
fixed them with herbs and acupuncture. And then I'm like, duh, I was fixing them with herbs and acupuncture. And so why all of a sudden would I think that they would jump on therapeutic diets rather than using the tools that they already were comfortable using? Um,
Yes.
and so that was like a big aha moment for me in that, yeah, we need to have kidney care out there because kidney care is so safe, so easy to use, and so needed. And so
Yes.
we were, another one was taurine boost. When all the DCM was happening with dogs, congestive heart failure from not having enough taurine, I'm like, that could be fixed really easily. Let's make a taurine and a heart supplement. So we put it together, had it launched long before anybody even knew that taurine deficiencies were an issue. So that's really how I develop new formulas, looking at what is needed and can nutrition help.
Yes. Okay. So you mentioned if the pet owner can get it into the animal, because with kitties it's a little tougher than dogs.
Exactly. Yep.
Do you kidney care, I assume, comes in a powder?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Because I have your milk thistle and it comes in a powder. I have to then encapsulate it to get it in,
Mm.
which is, I've been told by, I think it was either Pam of Perfectly Holistic, because she's the one that guided me for my cats and what they needed. But she's like, milk thistle, it doesn't taste bad. Like they shouldn't respond to it, but they
Right.
didn't like it. So I found if I encapsulated it, it's fine. But I also have the trick of, I take a can of sardines in spring water. I pour out the water into a ramekin and then leave one of the sardines to like marinate that water for the rest of the week. And I replace it weekly. So what I would do is take a 3 milliliter syringe and then add the herbs to that, then mix it together and then syringe it that way. Those are my two tricks. What tricks do you have?
I wish I had.
Oh.
Yeah, kitties are just love them to death. They're such amazing creatures. But yeah, that's the hard part about herbs with cats.
Yes.
Is because you have to be able to get them into them. So making a tea, which you're essentially doing with the anchovies or the sardines,
Yeah.
making it into a tea, making it into a paste and putting it on the top of their foot.
Mm-hmm.
So of course they can't stand that, so they're going to try licking it off.
Yeah.
Boy, you can heat them, so you could bake them into like a meatball, or bake them into, for a dog, a muffin would be
Yeah.
a great way to do it, because in Chinese medicine you're always going to decoct it, so you're going to boil it, so heat does not inactivate any of the active ingredients. But I would say that that led me in another direction, because there are so many amazing herbs for kitties, but you got to get it into them, and most people aren't. And it's great that you could do it with a capsule, but how many times can you peel and give capsules to a cat? Maybe once, and then they're going to chew your head off, or you can't get it done. So that really directed me into food and into making the Simple Food Project and making.
Yeah, great segue.
Yeah. I thought you were intended that.
No, I didn't. Great. I love it.
But what I really saw is if we could adjust the food, and they would be more likely to eat that would be a better way to positively affect them than the herbs are. And interesting, just kind of a side note, kitties love acupuncture. Have you ever tried it with your kitties?
One does not, but he's my hyperesthesia cat, so that makes sense why needles would suck. But he loves cold laser acupuncture,
right? Or tuina which would be like Chinese massage.
Yes,
would be another great approach. But I gotta say, the first time I put a needle in a kitty, like in their face for sinus issues, they immediately started draining, and they were just like, oh my God, this is the best ever. And at the time I was like, I think he's going to just claw my face off, but I'm going to do it. And it turned out that the majority of kitties absolutely love that endorphin release, that buzz that you get, which is called the arrival of qi in Chinese medicine. So anyhow, as a side note, because you still have to put your kitty in a car and drive it to my farm to be treated, which was traumatizing. So I went, okay, that's not a great approach. Herbs aren't a great approach because most kitties won't eat it, but food. Now that was the way to be able to make a change. So in Simple Food Project, which is our complete and balanced food for healthy kitties, we made it in a freeze dried as well as chunks of like freeze dried salmon. So salmon fillets or chicken breast fillets. And then we added organ meats to it as well. But the most important is we based it on food energetics. So we have warming, cooling, and neutral. And so you can use that food, which is complete and balanced, just, a healthy, vibrant, clean food. But then you could say, okay, my kitty has some allergy issues, and his ears get really red and his belly gets red, and then he starts itching. Well, that's too much heat. So what we'd use the cooling foods. So we'd use, I think it's the whitefish and duck is our cooling food. So you could use the energetics of food to help right the body. And in Chinese medicine, whether you're using acupuncture or herbs or food energetics, it's always to rebalance. So if you have too much heat and inflammation, now you've got this inflammatory environment within the body. So allergies, autoimmune diseases, things like that. If you don't have enough energy of the body, you get other things like hypothyroidism and low immune system and failure to thrive. And so I would use herbs or needles or food to balance that out. And I always want to get to balance. So we have an even amount of heat and inflammation because you need that to metabolize food and to walk around and to warm your body. But you also have to have yin and the quiet, maternal, nighttime sleep and fluids of the body. You need to have a balance between the two. And in Chinese medicine, everything you do is to bring that animal back to balance again. And the best way for a cat owner to think of that is, where does your cat choose to sleep? If they choose to sleep on tile, they're probably too hot and they're trying to naturally cool themselves. If they're the sort of cat that snuggles up under the bed and you feel like you're just going to crush them with the amount of blankets on them, that cat is too cold and needs to add warmth. So that particular kitty, we're going to use warming foods, so like chicken and turkey, so that every day with every meal, we're kind of slowly but surely pushing them back to a neutral point. And another big thing that I learned as a holistic veterinarian is that we use all of these tools to rebalance the body. And it doesn't matter what you do, it's still inherently the innate intelligence of the animal that allows that to occur. And as kind of bringing it full circle to where we originally began, if we're feeding them well and we're providing this great foundation, they'll heal really well. So Simple Food Project just kind of goes right in that same thing. It's already species appropriate, so it's high meat and organs. It's already low carbohydrates and has antioxidants, has high omega-3 fatty acids. But then you can also use that warming, cooling, and neutral effect.
Yes, that's excellent. My cat Charlie, he's the one with the kidney disease. His entire life he slept in a sink. And then
isn't that interesting? Wow.
Last couple of years he will not sleep in a sink. So
wow. That's so
Yeah.
fascinating.
It is fascinating, and fascinating that you said that too, because I had Graves' disease, which is hyperthyroidism, for 8 years, and I would literally be wearing a fleece jacket when it was 90 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And I, I experimented with alternative medicine during that time, but the thing that actually caused my hyperthyroidism was birth control that I was on for my cramps that were unbearable. So that's something else that I guess I wanted to bring up, is that alternative medicine wasn't going to fix it, because I was still feeding the body with the that was making the problem. So I like that you started the Simple Food Project and Medicus, because I think if you're on a crappy diet and you're giving herbs, they might help a little bit. But if you're still feeding the crap, then it's not going to help how it's really could help.
Yeah, 100%. And we also have, I don't think we got into it, but we have 2 production facilities here in Southeastern Wisconsin. So one is 85,000 square feet, so a giant building. Another one's 45,000 square feet. So we make Simple Food Project ourselves. So we literally have 15 giant industrial size freeze dryers. We have about 50 people that work for us. We literally see, if it has beef heart, it is a big beef heart. It's literally, we see the organs and the meats that go into the diet, the organic fruits and vegetables that go into the diet. Because again, I didn't want to risk my veterinary reputation on a substandard product. It wasn't about having a pet food company. It was about solving a problem. It was about how can we develop this foundation for healthy kitties, or for kitties to develop health, and it was through food. But the food had to be good food. And the best way to do that was for us to do it ourselves. And this is the atta-girl part coming in from my dad. If I had realized what I was getting into, I'm not sure I would have done it. But quite honestly, I was all gung-ho, like I'm the sort of person that identifies an issue and then tries to solve it. And to me, it's all about solving that problem and what tools do I need to be able to solve that problem. And that's where food came in as well. And then Medicus Veterinary Diet was a step up from that. I kept getting cat parents that would say, my cat has X, Y, and Z. What can I do beyond the herbs that I can't get into them, and beyond the warming, cooling, and neutral foods? I thought we have to be able to get to the right nutrient profile for that animal's disease, but be able to do it with whole food.
Yeah.
Real food that we can understand what chicken liver is, and chicken, and cranberries, and blueberries. And we understand those terms rather than powdered cellulose or some other term. So what I found in my veterinary practice is that when animals were healthy, pet parents are brave, and they will follow their pet. And if their pet won't eat it, then they're thinking, oh, there's something wrong with the food, which is a good thought, And so they really could look to their animal as for guidance that they're doing the right thing. But when an animal got sick, that bravery went away, and rightly so. They take their kitty to the vet, and the vet says, boy, he's got elevated kidney enzymes, and BUN and creatinine are elevated, and he's got kidney disease, and we need to send you home with this bag of therapeutic cat food. That as a pet parent, you would look at those ingredients and go, I would have never fed that to my cat any other day. But my vet must know, and I'm scared, and I want to do everything I can to support him to the best of my ability. So you find yourself buying this bag of food that you would never have normally purchased. And I thought we need to change that. And we need to provide better tools for veterinarians to use, because without without saying, because what was happening is a pet parent that rejected that those foods had poor quality ingredients also rejected the idea that nutrients mattered. So then they just started feeding their kitty rotisserie chicken. And yeah, that cat ate it and they liked it, but chicken is really high, or meat is really high in phosphorus. And kitties that have kidney disease can't properly get rid of phosphorus like they would normally do. So when they threw out the idea that nutrients mattered because the ingredients were bad, and they just fed rotisserie chicken, now they didn't help the kidneys at all. Now phosphorus levels went through the roof, and all sorts of other things started to happen. And eventually the kitty wouldn't eat that either. And then it was just this downhill spiral that was so silly because it could be easily helped.
Yes.
And that's where Medicus Veterinary Diets came in. That took me years to be able to develop, and hundreds of thousands of dollars of testing to make sure that the nutrient profile was exactly what it needed to be. But instead of using poor quality ingredients, let's use the absolute best ingredients possible. So when they need it the most, that's when nutrition really matters and we can provide it for them. So that was took me from Simple Food Project, which is great all the time, to if they developed an issue, now we have therapeutic options that we can use, with the idea that it's not forever. So for example, a kitty with crystals in their urine and struvite stones, let's get them on the Medicus Veterinary Bladder Diet for 6 months. Let's get the inflammation of the bladder under control. Let's get the pH to the urine normal. Let's decrease the amount of minerals that are being released into the urine that allows these crystals to develop. And then once they're doing well, now let's get them onto Simple Food Project or another food that won't get them back into the same place. So I'm not saying that they should go from a bladder diet back to a low-end kibble. I'm saying that got them into that place in the beginning. I'm saying you go from this extreme diet that got them back under control. Now let's move to a complete and balanced diet that provides everything that they need. And what we kind of saw is, I'm sure you're shaking your head, yes, because you've seen it, that once a kitty gets on a prescription bladder diet, they just use it for the rest of their lives. That's not how it's supposed to be.
And I learned that from you with the Two Crazy Cat Ladies interview, that I was like, oh, it's not?
Because what happens is struvite crystals happen when the pH is really alkaline. And when you acidify the pH, so now you change it, now those struvite crystals can't develop. The problem is that's where oxalate crystals develop. And so kitties, historically, 95% of them got struvite crystals. Now, because of this practice of using that prescription diet their whole life, now it's about 50%. 50% get oxalate stones, 50% got struvite stones. How did that happen? It happened because the nutrition worked so well, it took them from being alkaline to being acidic, and now develop a different type of stone. So we just took the problem and just gave them a different problem.
Yes.
Woo, now we need a new product. Now, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that companies are like, oh, we better get this oxalate stone recipe and they'll be on that for the rest of their lives. Well, then they'll flip the other way, where what I thought with Medicus was, let's make it pH neutral so that we're minimizing the amount of minerals that they're getting, so the amount that can crystallize into these stones, but also let's keep the pH neutral right where it should be, like 6.3 to 6.6. Let's keep it in that neutral range so neither one develop. But then also, let's get them back on a healthy food that's not going to push it one way or the other direction.
Okay. But there are circumstances like where you have a kidney cat that they stay on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kidney is different. So if it's chronic kidney disease, because that kitty has been fed a dry diet its whole life, and now they're 14 or 15 years old with chronic kidney disease, they're going to be on it forever because that kidney, once we see it on blood work, about 2/3 of that organ is shut down.
Yeah.
So now we have kidney scarring there that's never going to get better. So that for long term. But let's say you had a dog that had a tick-borne disease that affected their kidney. And so you could use a kidney diet for 4 to 6 months while you're doing other things, antibiotics or anti-inflammatories to bring that tick-borne disease under control. Now the kidney has readapted, the inflammation has come down. Now they can go back on a complete and balanced food again.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Got it. So it works that way for acute kidney, but chronic, they got to stay on it.
Yep.
Okay. This is something that I kind of waver back and forth on because freeze dried is convenient. The nutrition level is there, but especially for cats, I hate that it's dry.
Right. You have to rehydrate it.
Is that what
Really
you
have to.
suggest?
Yes.
Okay.
100%, because I agree with you 100%. And I even had that internal dialogue myself of how can I support the use of a dry diet for cats? I don't. I support the freeze dried to get it into your home, so it's inexpensive, lightweight, shelf stable, just scoopable. But then you have to add warm water to it, warm water, warm broth, or something to get it back to being the moisture content that a cat needs. So cats they don't drink, they get their moisture from their food.
Right.
So absolutely. You have it with and for the cat diets, we also have it in a pate powder. So we took the nuggets and ground it to a powder. So the nutrient profile is still there. The good quality ingredients are still there. But now you have so many things to play with. So now you've got a pate powder that you just add moisture back to it and makes this beautiful pate with yummy real food ingredients. But you also can have nuggets. So not that I'm always trying to trick kitties, but I'm kind of trying to trick them. So now you could say, you know how cats might like a real soupy moist food for a while, and then they don't like that. And then they like some crunch, and then they don't like that. And so the fun part is you could make the pate wetter or drier. You could add the nuggets on top just for a little crunch, or you could add the nuggets and put a little pate on top of that. So it gives you ways to keep it fresh for them, to keep it exciting and interesting, but also adapts to their physiology, meaning that they eat their moisture, they don't drink it. But they also, when they're when they eat a bird or a mouse, they love the crunch. Like when a carnivore crunches down on the bones, that has a stimulatory effect to make them get like, this is so good. And then they'll eat more of it. So just a pate is good, but it's still only 90%. And having both the nuggets and the pate kind of lets you accommodate all their different areas of physiology in the kitty.
Yes. Interesting. You know, thank you for that humbling statement, because I've always been like, when someone's like, well, my kitties just like the crunch. I'm like, no, they don't. That's, the dry food manufacturers selling you that idea, but no, you're right. They would like the crunch of a bird or a mouse.
Right.
So
yeah,
thank you.
Because I did a lot of soul searching on how did we get so convinced that dry kibble every day of their life is a good thing. And some is kind of, food engineering and food science, where it's the great smells and the tart versus sweet and taste buds of kitties and all of those sort of things. But I do think there is that stimulatory effect of when they crunch on a bone, that it's exciting and it stimulates more eating.
Yes. Yeah, I tried to get both of my cats eating whole prey a couple of years ago. I lost a cat last year. And so when I reference both my cats, that's why I wanted to explain that to you. So anyway, I couldn't get the whole prey thing done, but I got Charlie, the kidney cat, into eating dehydrated quail chicks. And I swear that's why he likes it so much. I mean, I think he likes the feathers and stuff too, but that crunch, he's like, give it to me, give it to me. I'm gonna bite it. Your mention of warm water actually sparked a question in me based on something that I'm going through human-wise right now, and that is trying not to drink as much tap water as I used to. Do you have concern about that? That you have this beautiful food, but then they're adding warm tap water? Like in Orlando,
Yes.
that tap water just smelled like sulfur to me.
Right. Right.
That
I thought it had a bleachy taste. It was
I
terrible. But you're
yes.
100% right. In fact, that have you seen cat water? Those
No.
I think it's sold like in a PetSmart, something like that. And it's I don't know the exact details, but it's very, very low mineral and very clean. And I would agree. I think that's exactly where do all these minerals come from? Is granted, probably 90% is from the food, but you also get it from the water as well. And if you're not doing good water for yourself, you're probably not doing it for the kitty as well. And I think that having really clean water with low minerals is super important. And I agree. If you have toxins in the water, like bleach, or you identified sulfur, that's not good. So that's
No.
just as bad because it's so important to them. Versus us, we can get moisture from lots of different places where they're getting it primarily from their food.
Yes, yes. So, do you recommend adding purified water, distilled water, spring water?
Yep, any one or all of those.
Okay.
And I would say you just have to research it, whatever you're going to choose, and make sure it fits for your kitty. So I don't have a blanket statement of one type is better than another, distilled versus ionized versus something else. I would say, but I would say it's definitely something they should research.
Okay. Another question was, how has all of this studying, learning, whatever, transformed? I'm making the somewhat rude assumption that, you were born and raised in the Midwest, like me. And so it wasn't probably common knowledge that certain foods cause certain things until you started studying and learning it from animal or because of animals.
Yeah.
So how has it changed how you approach your diet or your lifestyle?
I would say it's an equal mirror, that the way that I eat and the things that I do are a reflection of what I recommend for pets. Like a big one for me is humans are omnivores, and so we should eat different. And unfortunately, a lot of that includes grains. And I grew up as a vegetarian of all things, and and so lentils and beans were like a big part of my diet. Well, that was before glyphosate. Now, those used to be considered healthy foods. Now, those are the most unhealthy foods that you could possibly eat. And so I won't touch a grain for my own consumption unless it's organic.
Yeah.
And so I would never eat regular oats. I would never eat regular beans. That everything has to be organic. And if all my fruits and vegetables are organic, that's important as well. And so that's really definitely changed my life in that as I was researching and studying for the animals, I saw it for myself as well.
What, vegetarian? Like were your parents vegetarian?
No, and the interesting part was of all of this, you'd think that it came from like a real woo-woo family where
Yeah.
no, not at all. We grew up in a subdivision. For me, it was always about more tools. It was always about more ways to fix an animal. It wasn't ever about philosophy or any of those lofty things. It was, for me, it was never about that. And so my parents were just normal parents. My family was a normal family, um, but in that being able to help every patient that came my way, I just saw myself having to learn all of these other things and loved it. And it was rewarding because the ideal to me is that patient is better, their life is better after seeing me than ever would be before. So we do this thing at Herbsmith called Curate the Bowl. So you can go online and you can fill out, tell me all about your animal. And I literally do this every day. I review those and then I make recommendations that what they should do. So for free. So I might recommend a probiotic and a simple food project and blah, blah, blah. And and between Herbsmith, the Simple Food Project, and Medicus, I pretty much have an answer for almost everything
Hmm.
because those tools allow me to be able to help pets develop that foundation. But the fact that I'm a veterinarian and they say he's also on prednisone and on Prozac and on this and on that, then I'm in my vet brain thinking about, okay, he can use this product, but he can't use this one because this one doesn't work with Prozac. So that's the beauty of this Curate the Bowl is I can give you recommendations. And sometimes it's you need to find a veterinary chiropractor in your area. And here's where you go to find a list of certified veterinarians in your area. Maybe that pet would do really well with acupuncture. Here's a list of a place that you could find an acupuncturist in your area. So that Curate the Bowl and having all these tools available to me is really kind of directs those pet parents in the right direction. So I would
Yeah, I didn't
encourage
know
all
about that.
your floppy catters to go to Herbsmith and fill out that Curate the Bowl and and you can also tell me all the things that your kitty is on. And then I can also tell you, I would take this out and I would add that. Or that's a great product, continue this, but I would also add this. So it's a great way to kind of personalize it. And therefore you get my 30 plus years of veterinary experience and everything that I do all together.
Yes, that's lovely. I will find it and then include a link to it in the
That'd be
description
great.
so it's easy. Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, thank you very, very much for this today. I cover everything that well, I think you had a specific idea of what this interview was going to be about, and I was like, no, 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 I want people to like to get to know you and why you did these things. But are you satisfied with what has been conveyed here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm usually um, more focused on what issues the pet has and then what we can do to help them. And that's
Yes.
usually what I talk about, and I don't talk about me at all. But I think so this was a big change for me. But happy to talk about it because I've spent my life doing this and the foundation I think is really important. Like
Yes.
why trust when I say something, do I really mean it? And have I thought about it? Have I looked at all the research? Have I investigated every possibility? Yes.
Yes. And I would be happy to do more of like a specific disease or specific syndrome interview with you, but for introductory purposes. And also, as I shared with you, I don't know if I said this on the actual recording, but that after walking around Global Pet Expo, and after doing this for 17 years, it's really important to me that pet owners realize when they pick up a bag or they pick up a box or pick up a can, what's behind all of that, who's behind it, and what were their intentions from the get-go. Did they have the knowledge and the education and the heart to create a good product?
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to introduce you in this way. So thank you for being very generous and navigating in a different way. Um, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.